everyone, and welcome back to another Sports Stat Media video. I am your host, Andrew, and welcome today. So, today we are going to be comparing two very statistically similar quarterbacks in Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz, and we are going to be looking at three different things to compare them. So the first one is going to be their statistics in their per games attempts and also their overall career statistics. This is going to include things like completion percentage and NEA and other statistics that are important when you're evaluating the quarterback position. The second thing we're going to look at is their injury history. We're going to look at the amount of injuries and the potential that they could have to be injured next season. And we are also going to be looking at the number of games they played in versus the number of games they've started and the number of games they missed. And finally, for number 3, we're going to be looking at talent around them. We're going to be looking at the amount that the front office and coaching has helped them succeed, and we're going to be looking at their weapons on both offense and defense to compare them and see who really has the better weapons and who's had the better team overall in their careers. So with all this explained, let the fight begin. Ladies and gentlemen, in this corner at 6'2", 229 pounds, we have the beast, Dak Prescott, using his scrambling ability and his improvising skills to help. And in this corner at 6'5", a meaty 237 pounds, we have Carson Wentz. He uses his technique and smart thinking to help the Eagles win games. We're going to go ahead and start with Carson Wentz here and look at his career statistics. Overall, he had 2,055 passing attempts overall in his career. He had 64% completion percentage. He's had 14,191 passing yards so far, 97 touchdowns so far, only 35 interceptions. That's very good. And he's had about 253 yards per game, a 92 QB rating, and he's been sacked 129 times. His NEA is 6.3, which, if you don't know what the NEA is, it's adjusted net yards per attempt. So if you want to see me go in depth on that in a later video, just let me know down in the comment section below. He also has 6 fourth quarter comebacks and 8 game-winning drives. Now we're going to look at his season statistics this past season. He had 607 passing attempts out of those 2,000-ish. He had 64% completion percentage, so very close to that range that he's in. He had 4,039 yards passing, 27 touchdowns, and only 7 interceptions. It's a very good statistical season. He had 252 yards per game, a little bit lower than his usual career average, and he had a 93 quarterback rating, which is obviously higher than his average. He was sacked 37 times out of those 129, and his NEA last season was lower than his career at 6.26, and he had 2 fourth quarter comebacks and 4 game-winning drives last season. Dak Prescott's career statistics, he had 2,071 pass attempts. Obviously, that was more than Carson Wentz. He had a 65.8% completion percentage. That was better than Carson Wentz. He had 1,500 passing yards, which obviously was better than Carson Wentz. They tied in the touchdowns category, both with 97 for their careers. He had worse interceptions than Carson Wentz, but only by 1, so that's very good for him. And he started lots more games, so that also factors in. He had less passing yards per game at 246.5 yards per game over his career, and he's had a 97 quarterback rating over his career, obviously better than Carson Wentz. He's been sacked more times than Carson Wentz, obviously with that high sack season in 2018. And he also has a 6.92 NEA for his career, very good. And he's had 8 fourth quarter comebacks and 14 game-winning drives. Now we're going to look at his season statistics. So last season, he had 596 passing attempts. This was better than Carson Wentz. He had a 65% completion percentage, obviously lower than his career, but it was better than Carson Wentz's. He had 6,902 yards, almost beating out Tony Romo for the record for the Cowboys by 1 yard. And he was obviously better than Wentz. He had more touchdowns than Wentz last season, but he also threw more interceptions, so that's a little bit of a downside. And he obviously had a very high yards per game of his career with 306.4 yards per game. He had a 99 quarterback rating, obviously higher. He was also only sacked 23 times last season, which was obviously better than Carson Wentz. He also had a better NEA than Carson Wentz last season, but he did have less fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. Now we're going to take a look at their injury history. So obviously Dak Prescott been very, very clean over his career. He's played in 64 out of the possible games. He started all 64 of those, and he's missed no games so far. According to the website Sports Injury Predictor, Dak has it's like a 25-ish% chance of being injured next season, but that is only for like 1 or 2 quarters. It's not for an entire game. It's what it's saying. And then his chance of being injured for a game is around 2 or 1%, which is very good. Obviously, his projected games missed for 2020 is 0.1, obviously also very low, so very good there. And for their durability, they had Dak at a 25, but it said it was on a scale from 1 to 5, with 5 being the best. So I went ahead and changed it on a scale from 1 to 10, and I went ahead and chose him being an 8 because obviously he has had some injuries in his career with the shoulder injuries and some hand injuries against the Bears, but he has played through those and has performed very well in those games. Now we're on to Carson Wentz's career injuries. He's played in 56 games. He started all of those, but he has missed 8 games, so that is obviously a letdown there. According to Sports Injury Predictor, he has a 39% chance of getting injured in 2020. It's a little on the medium side. It's not too bad, though. His chance of injury per game, 3.1. Still very good percentage. His projected games missed for 2020, 1.2. Obviously, you don't want your quarterback missing any of your starters, so this is a very worrying statistic there. And on his durability, from a scale from 1 to 10, I think I went ahead and put a 6 on there because he has been available for a lot of his games, but obviously he's missed in some of the clutch endings of the season. From that Cowboys game, he was injured all the way to the end of the season where Nick Foles had to come in and lead the Eagles to the playoffs. Now we're going to take a look at talent, starting off with Carson Wentz. For running back, I went ahead and put a B rating for it. He's obviously had some good players there. LeGarrette Blount, Corey Clement, Jordan Howard. They haven't been superstars, though, and they've ran more of a committee approach at that running back position. So he has had some talent there, but not the starters that you want. Obviously, Miles Sanders there now, though, and he looks to be like a superstar for the Eagles. For the O-line, I went ahead and put an A. Obviously, he's had a very good O-line over his career. The time sacks may worry you, but Jason Peters, Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, all those guys, very good starters on the line, and they have kept him upright over these past few years. For wide receiver, I went ahead and put a B- because they have had some good guys there, but obviously you have some busts like Nelson Aguilar, Alshon Jeffrey, but Deshaun Jackson, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, we'll have to see what happens with him. And Mac Hollins looks to be good, but at that position, it looks to be okay, but not a superstar talented. For tight end, I went ahead and put an A+, because they have had so many great tight ends during his career. Just to name a few, you have Zach Ertz, you have Dallas Goedert, and you have Brent Selleck. Those are a few of the guys who've been really talented for Carson Wentz. On defense, I went ahead and put an A- because they have had a very good defense, especially with Jim Schwartz being that defensive coordinator there. They've had Fletcher Cox, some different guys and stuff up the middle. They've had Brandon Graham off the edge with Derek Barnett there too. They've had some good linebackers, Jordan Hicks, Nigel Bradham, Camus Krieger-Hill. The secondary is a little bit questionable, but Rodney McLeod, Malcolm Jenkins, they have secured the back end there, and Ronald Darby has been an okay player there. He's now left for the Redskins, but obviously he was a good player there while his career lasted, and I see their defense as having an A- potential over his career. Now we're going to look at the front office for Carson Wentz. So we're going to be looking at 4 different things: the aggression free agency, the quality of the free agents they sign, and their draft aggression, and also their draft quality. For free agent aggression, I went ahead and put an A+. Howie Rose has been very good at targeting free agents and signing them. He's got Javon Hargrave this past season, and obviously they've gotten some quality guys there over the past few years. So I went in and put a B for them on their free agent quality because it's been good. Hasn't been superstar stuttered, but it has been good for the cap space that they've worked around. But you've had a few guys who've been bust signings, like Alshon Jeffrey hasn't performed up to the expectations that they expected him to. For draft aggression, I went ahead and put an A+. They obviously are very prone to trade up or trade down if they don't have a prospect that they liked. This is very unlike the Cowboys, who usually stay where they're at. And for draft quality, I went ahead and put a B+, because they've gotten some great guys out of the draft, like Andre Dillard, J.J. Arcega-Whiteside, Dallas Goedert, just to name a few of the guys that they've gotten in these past drafts, and they'll become potential starters in this league. Now, finally, we're going to look at the coaching for Carson Wentz. So we're going to be looking at 3 different things: play calling, the situational awareness of the coach, and the overall coaching ability from that staff. For play calling for Carson Wentz, I will put an A. Doug Peterson has done a fantastic job. One of my favorite coaches in the league with his RPO run style offense. So the play calling has been superb there. I gave it an A. Situational, I went ahead and put an A+. He has done a very good job. Doug Peterson, obviously, has done a very good job knowing when to go for it on 4th down and knowing when to kind of stay back and punt the ball and knowing when to kick the field goal. He has been great, one of the greatest coaches in the league, being able to do this. Overall, I gave him an A because of his situational and that play calling combined. It just makes him an overall great coach. So I gave him an A for Carson Wentz's coaching. Now on to Dak Prescott and his talent. So starting off at the running back position, I gave him an A+. Obviously, Zeke, one of the most talented running backs in the league, and now they have Tony Pollard to back him up. That is a serious superstar duo at that running back position. So you can't disagree that Dak has had very talented running backs over his career. For the O-line, I went ahead and also put an A for them. They've had some great guys. The reason I didn't put an A+ was because Travis Frederick did miss some time, and now he's retired, so that O-line a little bit questionable at the center position, but overall, very good. At wide receiver, I decided to put a B- because they've had some very talented guys. Amari Cooper, Des Bryant, when he was there in that first season, was very good. They had Michael Gallup, Randall Cobb, Cole Beasley, but they haven't had like two superstars that have been able to come together and really work with Dak. But we have seen two 1,000-yard receivers in Amari Cooper and Michael Gallup. So we'll see if that happens for them in the next few seasons. For tight end, I went ahead and put a B because here's why. Jason Witten has been towards the end of his career with Dak, and now he's with the Raiders. And the only other guy that I can really think of that's been good enough to put on this list would be Blake Jarwin. They have had Gavin Escobar and some other guys like that, but they haven't been as great as Blake Jarwin and Jason Witten have. So overall, I'm just going to give them a B for that because their talent there has been lacking. And for defense, I went ahead and put a B-. The reason why is because they haven't been able to stop whenever the offense has scored. So if the other team gets a possession, it's hard for them to go out there and stop the defense. Recently, however, with Leighton Vander Esch, DeMarcus Lawrence, Jalen Smith, that team has been able to make stops, which is why I ended up raising it to a B-. I was originally going to give them a C, but the B- there is very lenient. It could go higher if their defense is even better next season. We'll have to see about that. Now we're moving on to the front office for Dak. For free agency aggression, I put a C because they're not really prone to go out there and try to sign the biggest free agent, but they will make some under-the-radar moves like Joe Thomas, who've helped him out, and just some different guys who can go out there and really help them on their team. For quality, I put B because they are some under-the-radar moves. They're not the biggest guys, but they're also really quality signings, which is why I went ahead and gave them a B here. For draft aggression, I put a D-. This is their worst quality. They won't trade up for prospects. They won't trade down if they don't have a prospect they like. Usually they just stay where they are and draft the best player available, despite the need on their team. For draft quality, I did put a B+, however. They have had some significantly good guys, Leighton Vander Esch, Connor Williams, Michael Gallup, just in that past draft. Obviously, these guys have all been good, and this draft to see how they do there. Now, finally, to coaching. This is the biggest difference between Carson Wentz and Dak, I feel, because they have the biggest separation in their careers over their coaches. So, for play calling, let's start off there. I went ahead and gave him a C. He has had some good play calling recently with Kellen Moore, but Scott Linehan was not good his first few years of his career, and he succeeded despite Scott Linehan being there, not because of it. So that's one of the main reasons that I gave it a C here. Situational play calling, I made it a D-. Jason Garrett does not know when to go for it on fourth down, when to be aggressive, when to be conservative. He does like to kick field goals a lot, but it could be the game-changing decision to go for a field goal instead of a touchdown to help you win the game. Overall, I decided to give it a C-. They're okay, but the coaches haven't been superb for them like Doug Peterson has. Now that we've taken all these factors into consideration, who is ultimately the winner of the debate versus Dak Prescott and Carson Wentz? That is right, ladies and gentlemen. Dak Prescott, I believe, is the better quarterback. Not by much, however, but Dak Prescott is the better quarterback over Carson Wentz. They have a lot of similarities. The main difference that it made for me is that Carson Wentz has missed a lot of games in his career, and that's a big factor. You want your quarterback to be able to be there for you in those clutch situations and to be available to you when you need him. And Dak. The other big deciding factor for me was Carson Wentz's coaching. Obviously, it was a lot better than Dak Prescott's, and overall, he's just had the better coaching in his career, and Dak Prescott has succeeded in spite of his coaching, not because of it. We can't say the same for Carson Wentz because we haven't seen him with a terrible coach, but obviously Doug Peterson, a great coach, and this is no diss to Carson Wentz at all. I think Carson Wentz is a great NFL quarterback. I don't think he's elite. I don't think Dak is elite either, but they're both very good quality starting quarterbacks in this league. Thank you all so much for watching another episode of Sports Stat Media. If you liked the episode, go ahead and go down below and like it. While you're down there, go ahead and comment your takes and subscribe so you can see more of these awesome videos like that. Obviously, if you didn't like the takes in this video, go ahead and comment down below. Let me know what I should change. And